Shanice's workshop. Hope you're having a wonderful day. So, today we're going to be discussing Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. This is the first novel in the Last Hours trilogy, which is part of the Shadowhunters universe. I love Cassandra Clare. I really do. I like to consider myself privileged because one of the things that's really phenomenal about Cassandra Clare is the way her writing style has grown. I've been reading her books since the first one came out, City of Bones, and her storytelling has just grown. Back then you really only, I think you were only following like one or two protagonists, and now you have this whole cast of characters, and she's able to move effortlessly between the characters. I know a lot of people don't like multiple POV stories, and I understand why, because sometimes if the transitions aren't really clear, you kind of get lost, and sometimes there's not a lot of devotion to other characters, and you're like, okay, well, why are they even given a point of view, right? So I completely understand why some people do not like multiple POV stories. I don't think it has to do with it being multiple POV. I think it has to do with writing style. Cassandra Clare is able to give each and every individual character a personality of their own. And, they really all do have a lot of their own struggles. Cordelia, she is of Persian descent, so she does have darker skin. She is a character of color. And in early 19th century London, you can only imagine the kind of... She's treated as something exotic, basically. And that's not to say that that's unfair. I really do feel like that's a pretty accurate representation of society during that time. Like, ooh, I've heard all about your country. You kind of, and she does feel that separation from her in society because of the color of her skin, but she doesn't let that stop her. She is a fierce warrior, but she also has such a kind and gentle, warm heart. I mean, Cordelia is amazing. I love her. And then you have Matthew Fairchild, and you have James Herondale, and Lucy Herondale, and Alistair, and you have such a range of characters, and they're all... Some of their point of views are like quick bursts, but you get a sense of who they are as a character by their character dynamics, by their relationships with other characters. You become invested in this gang of misfits, and maybe I just have a soft spot for misfit stories. They are fierce and formidable, and they continue to rise to the occasion. And in the point of case of Grace, Grace Blackthorn, is she a villain, or is she just a victim of circumstance? Titania Blackthorn is for sure the actual villain. Has she completely brainwashed Grace, or is she just manipulating Grace because Grace wants something? There's a lot of gray area for these characters. Matthew struggles with his alcoholism and grief for something he did that we don't have all the details for. He has a lot of guilt in him. These characters are layered, They have personalities, and each one is unique to each individual character. It's not like, oh, he's kind of the same as him. Like, no, they're all very unique and unique individuals, and I really love that about Cassandra Clare's writing style, because you become invested. I mean, that scene with Cordelia and James is pretty steamy, and I'm wholly invested in their relationship. And I'm so invested that by the time I got to the end of this book, I was really, really frustrated, because I'm like, this is not going the way I want it to go, and Cassandra Clare needs to fix this within the next 2 books. I mean, I'm invested in them because they seem to balance each other out so well, of course you don't know, maybe you haven't read the book, but it's just so emotive. And then you have the story itself There's a lot of intrigue. There's a lot of mystery. There's a lot of action. You know, you're seeing not just the male characters show off their talent with spears and swords and all of their Shadowhunter weapons. Like I said, you're seeing characters like Cordelia and Lucy really use a lot of their talents and sometimes outshine the boys. I mean, Cordelia has to rescue James at least twice. And she does so with such grace. I mean, yes, I love her. She is amazing, and I love her. But there's a lot of storytelling here, and it does connect to the Infernal Devices trilogy. Obviously, it follows the children of Will and Tessa. So it does connect a lot to some of the history that was developed there. I will say this. I'm really, really thankful. I made myself the promise to read every single anthology, you know, the Bane Chronicles, Ghost of the Shadow Market, and Shadowhunter Academy. I'm really, really glad I read those 3 before I even started this series, because there's a lot of Easter eggs here, and I'm like, ooh, I know a secret you don't know. There's a lot of references to some of those stories. It's not necessary that you read them, but I think it would behoove you to read them first. I mean, if you're struggling, like, where should you start in Cassandra Clare's? I always say just start with the original. Mainly because, like I've said, her writing style grows. You know, a lot of people want to do it chronologically, but if you do that, you're going to see there's going to be a dip in her storytelling, because from her beginning to now, her writing style, her storytelling, her characterization, everything has grown. That's why I say just start by publication, because you'll appreciate it more. Personally, that's what I think. But, I mean, you could also just read these 2 prequel trilogies and you don't have to read anything else. They're really good on their own, and you don't have to read the original trilogy. But I do say read the anthologies. Read them, because it just makes those small little moments even more impactful to the story. And I love that. I love that they're just like, oh, here's a little secret. It's referenced, but it's just like, I want to read more of that, but you already know about it. Does that make sense? Probably not. I'm sorry. I'm fangirling now. It's a good series. I love it. I think Cassandra Clare has outdone herself once more. I can't wait to read the last 2 books in this trilogy. So I have to give it 4 out of 5 stars. 4.5. 4.5 out of 5 stars. So on that note, I hope you all will continue to support me here by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with all your book loving friends. If you do want to purchase the book, I will include links in the description below on where to purchase. And you can also become a supporter of Sin's Workshop by becoming a supporter on Buy Me Coffee, Ko-fi, Patreon, by purchasing one of my handmade candles, or by following any of my social media platforms. Links to everything in the description below. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.